Okay, so we're looking at participle clauses today. We've had a look already this week at relative clauses, and if you've missed it, guys, okay, if you've missed it, you can go and catch up on the website, the recorded classes. We're going to continue with participle clauses. Now, this is the last thing that I'm going to add in our 3 weeks of sentence structure. Okay, it's the last thing. It's something which is useful. It is useful. It's not as big a part of OET as relative clauses are, but it does play a role in OET writing. There are two types that we're going to look at today that come up time and time again in OET writing. And I think that one of them is definitely more useful than the other. Okay. And I'll show you that. But first of all, let's just do a very, very quick review about clauses, sentence structure, etc. So let me just get this off here. Yeah, we'll go up to the top. Okay, so have a look here. I've got a little exercise for us to do there. Okay, how many clauses are there in these 3 sentences? Just have a look, 30 seconds. Okay, so anybody can tell me. First one, how many clauses?
1 clause.
2.
2 clauses.
2 clauses, aren't there?
Yeah, noun and verb.
How are those clauses connected?
What's but?
But.
But.
Yeah, but's in the middle, isn't it? Okay, second one.
2.
2.
Comma.
2, it's the
Despite.
same, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's despite this time, isn't it? Okay, so which one do you think is more difficult?
Despite.
Despite, yeah. And we think it's more difficult because of the noun clause.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your contrast link is at the beginning, it's not in the middle, but's really easy, isn't it? Okay, but really, if you think about it, once you've learned how to do despite, both of them are pretty easy, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just 2 clauses, contrast. You probably, most of us, I think, are capable of doing that. Look at the last one. Last one. How many clauses?
I think 3.
3. Okay, so we've got
3.
Paul lives in Manchester. Then what's this?
Relative.
Relative clause,
Which
defining or non-defining?
Non-binding.
Defining.
Non-defining, isn't it? Why do we know it's non-defining?
Comma.
Because
Start
it's not
with
essential.
And
Okay,
also
it's not
the
essential. Can I put a full stop there?
Yes.
Yes,
doesn't
yes,
it?
it makes sense.
Yeah. All you're telling me by adding this extra bit is something interesting, something useful, but not essential. And then I've extended, haven't I?
Yeah.
I've extended. Okay, so I've used which in order to add this section, and then I've used and to add this one. So do I need to put and which again?
No.
No.
I don't need to, do I?
No.
Because it's the same subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
Paul is mean Paul here.
Well,
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
which, can which mean Paul?
No.
No.
Situation.
It's the situation.
Manchester.
The fact that Paul lives in Manchester, that's convenient for working in London.
And also Paul could not be
And it's
cheaper.
also cheaper than living in London.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good sentence, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good sentence. We've got a relative clause, we've extended it, all of the grammar's correct, everything's fine. We're happy with that. Okay, I'm going to show you another sentence now. Okay, each one here, we've got a license, everything that's in bold, that's in red, I'm going to put it in red now. These are like our license to add new ideas, new sections to our sentences. Because we've got which here, we're able to put this relative clause in. If we don't have which, it's wrong. We've broken the law. Okay. These are the phrases that enable us to add new clauses to our sentence. And we're talking about participle clauses today. So I'm going to give you a sentence with one of those now. Look at this one. And tell me, would you like to write this sentence? Having been diagnosed with meningitis, Mrs. Smith was prescribed with IV antibiotics, which were commenced on the 4th of June and will finish 7 days after she is discharged. What do you think about that sentence, guys? Would you like to write that?
Yes,
Yeah. Why?
Nice one.
because it's
It's
like
complicated. but
many information.
There's a lot of information, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's concise.
Complicated. That's an interesting word. Complicated. I suppose it's complicated, isn't it?
Complex.
Complex. It's definitely complex.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's think about why it's good. Okay. Let's think about why it's good. The reason why it's good is because it's got accurate use of all of these things. So participle clause is here. Okay, so there's our participle clause. Let's put that one in green. It's got a relative clause. Where does that relative clause begin?
Relative.
Prescribed.
After which?
Which
Which,
were.
yeah, which is a yeah, which were commenced. Okay, there's our relative clause. That's that beginning. Yeah, okay, that's good.
And,
Have we got any addition?
and
Yes, and
And yeah, we're extending the relative clause, aren't we?
Mhm.
Okay, that's good. So we can put that one in blue. Passive.
having been
having
diagnosed.
been,
Were prescribed. Mhm.
Yeah,
Having
was
been
pres-
diagnosed
yeah,
is
was-
passive.
yeah,
Was prescribed.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Is
Were
discharged.
commenced.
Were commenced.
Were commenced.
Yeah, were commenced. That's
Mhm.
also passive. Yeah, so we've got loads of passive there. Any
Be discharged.
prepositions in there?
Yeah, preposition with.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Diagnosed with.
Mhm. With,
Yeah,
by,
diagnosed
Right.
with.
Prescribed
You
on.
must
on,
With,
On.
yeah, okay. Commenced on. Yeah,
after,
okay.
after.
After.
Yeah, after's a good one as well. Yeah, after she is discharged. Okay, so we've got some good prepositions. And tense.
Yeah,
Okay. Past,
past, yeah.
past, future.
Future.
Yeah, okay. So there's a reason why it's good. It's not just, wow, it's magic. It's not magic. These are all things that you can learn. These are all things that you can practice. Okay. This is something that we're going to look at today. Does that sound professional to you, having been diagnosed with meningitis?
Yes. Yes.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yes.
Really good. Okay. So I love this sentence. I think it's really good. But I just think that any of you guys could write this sentence. You just have to think to write it. And that's this. This is the thing that I really want you to take away. You can write sentences like this. It's you who decides what to do with the information. This information, being diagnosed with meningitis, being prescribed IV antibiotics, the start date of the antibiotics, and the finish date of the antibiotics. All of those are just case notes in the letter, in the task. You say this one, this one, this one, this one. Put them together. And it's you who chooses the way that you do it. If you want to use a relative clause, you can use a relative clause. If you want to use addition, you can use addition. If you want to use causes, results, contrast, participle clauses, you're the person who decides. And I think that once you've learned how to do them, that's when you can think to yourself, this would be useful here. All right, so let's go and have a look at the participle clauses. In order to talk about participle clauses, we've got to answer what the participle is. What is a participle? Because it's a strange word. And I don't really like using too much grammar language. Okay, I'd rather do examples and show why this one is better than that one. But sometimes you have to do it. So a participle is basically a form of a verb. It's just a form of a verb. So if we think, we normally learn something like this, don't we? We normally learn eat, and then we learn ate, and then we have
Eaten.
eaten. Okay, well, everyone knows that. That's called a past participle. That's called a past participle. All right, so past participles are the third form of the verb. Okay, so let me put this up here and we'll put this down. Okay, so past participles are the third form of the verb. Present participles are not the same as that. Now, present participles are verb.
Verb
You're
plus
gonna-
ing.
ing.
Yeah, verb plus ing. Now, I know what you're thinking, but
Gerund?
I've seen verb ing loads of different times. Okay, that's true. Verb plus ing can be, I think I just heard someone say, it could be a gerund. couldn't it?
Gerund.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It could be a gerund. Okay,
Continue.
it can be continuous tense.
Tense.
It could also be a
Adjective,
dynamic adjective.
Yeah, dynamic. Okay.
So if I say that you're bored, that means I am
Boring.
boring. Okay, so we can use these participles, these present participles. We can use them in lots of different ways, but it's always a present participle. That's the thing that you need to have in your mind. Okay, even though in this sentence it's a gerund, and in this sentence it's part of a continuous tense, and in this sentence it's a dynamic adjective, all the time above that it's always called a present participle. And a good way of thinking about that would be chips, roasties, and crisps. What are they made from?
Potato.
Potatoes.
Potatoes.
Yeah. So even when it's a roast potato, a mashed potato, a chip, or a crisp, it's still a potato, isn't it?
Yes.
It's still potato. That's the same with these. The most important thing, the fundamental thing that all of these are present participles. Okay. Past participles are the third form of the verb. Okay. So what do past participles get used for?
Present perfect.
They get used in the perfect tenses, don't they?
Mhm.
And
Yeah, all of
passive.
them.
they get
Passive.
used in the passive. Yeah. So what I'm here to tell you is that when we make some participle clauses, we use sometimes present participles and other times past participles. All right. So let's go and have a look at some examples. Okay, we've got to just bear this in mind. We're going to look at two types. Okay, let's take that out. We're going to look at a present participle clause and a perfect participle clause. That's what we're going to look at. Now, the one that we did earlier, look at the two different forms. You've got verb plus ing, or you've got having plus past participle. Which one do you think we used here?
Having.
Having.
Yeah.
That's called a perfect participle. And even though it seems more complicated, I'm going to teach you that one first. So having plus past participle. So let's just do that again. Having lost her keys, Joanne rang her dad for help. Okay. So having lost is the past participle.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, it's the past participle. Having, put that all together, that's called the perfect participle, because we've got have as we do with the present perfect and the past perfect. So having lost, what did she lose?
Her keys.
Her keys. Okay. Did she lose her keys before she rang her dad or after?
Before.
Before.
After.
Not after. Before.
After.
Well, okay. After. If it was after.
After.
Okay. If it was after, then what you're saying is that Joanne rang her dad for help and then she lost her keys. But that seems a bit strange, because you're thinking, well, why did she ring her dad? Why did she need help?
What is the reason? Yeah.
If you put it the other way round, then, okay, now I can see she rang her dad for help because
Yeah,
she
lost.
lost her keys. Okay, so let's do this one. Having recovered well, after his, well, let's just put post-operatively, actually, that's better, isn't it? Post-operatively, Mr. Smith is going to be what?
Discharged.
Discharged today. Okay, well, sorry, I need to put, I'm going to put well there. Okay, so does the discharge come before the recovery or after the recovery?
After.
After the recovery.
After. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, this is just cause and result.
Yes.
Yeah. And okay, that's fine. You can think of it that way. You can think of it that way. Whenever there's a cause, the cause always comes before the result, and that makes sense. But actually, it's not really that. It's not actually cause and result. And this is something that we need to get into our minds. Now, remember the word perfect. Remember that word. When we do the perfect, present perfect, we say, I have visited Greece twice. Okay. And this one, what could it be? I felt hungry because I had not eaten breakfast. Okay. This is present perfect, isn't it?
Yes.
And this one, I had not eaten. What's that one?
Past
Past
perfect.
perfect.
Past perfect.
Yes, it's past perfect. Okay. So the present perfect is to show. So if I go and ask, let me ask Petruzza, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Hi, Petruzza. So the present perfect, I have visited Greece twice. Do we know when?
No, twice. No, we don't know.
We don't know exactly, do we?
Yes.
Okay. But it's before today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Before today. Present perfect is before now, which is also called the present, isn't it? In this one, Petruzza, when did I not eat breakfast? It's a tricky one, isn't it?
At the morning.
It's before I felt hungry. Okay, which is also the past, isn't it?
Yes.
So remember, I established the past, and then I talked about what happened before it, or in this case, what didn't happen before it. So in both of these cases, the word perfect means
Before.
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 Yeah, that's what the word perfect means, before. So think of it like that. The perfect participle is telling me that what happened in the perfect participle clause happened before this one. Okay, what happens in the perfect participle clause happens before the event in the following clause. That's what it's about. That's what this is for. And it's exceptionally useful for OET. Think about a situation where someone has got multiple dates and you don't want to start at the first one. Okay, maybe you wanted to start at the second one or the third one. Having previously presented with a range of issues, Mr. Smith then presented with the problem that we're talking about now. So you can summarize those things that happened before with a participle, perfect participle clause. That's what the perfect participle is about. Does anyone have any questions or want to give me an example?
Yes, I have a question. And this,
Yeah,
having recovered well post-operatively, Mr. Smith is going to be discharged today.
Yeah.
The second clause is a future, is it? Like going to be discharged.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but this is the present participle, yeah.
Okay. No.
Okay.
So what we're going to do in the perfect participle is we're always going to put having plus the past participle. Always. Okay. All I'm doing is telling you that this happens before this. That's all I'm telling you.
Yes.
So don't worry about tense.
Okay.
It's not about tense, it's about sequence. Okay. So I can use the phrase first I built my house, and next I'm going to do my garden. First I built my house, and next I'm going to do my garden. You know the order, don't you? It doesn't matter that one of them happened in the past and one of them will happen in the future. The order is house first, garden second.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, my question is, instead of future, can we use another tense?
Of course. Yes, you can. So having recovered well, I can just take exactly the same idea. Sorry. Well, Mr. Smith
To be
was
simple.
discharged
Okay.
on the 14th of May.
Yeah.
Then it's the past.
Or
What
is being
happened first?
Yeah, the first thing, having recovered well, that is important. So the
It doesn't
second one,
matter.
we can make it as we wish. Yeah.
So yeah, so don't worry about the tense in the following clause.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not important. It can be any tense. Okay, that's fine. It can follow, it can be the present, it can be the past. It can be past, present, or future.
Okay.
The only thing that's important is the sequence.
Mm.
Okay, it is the sequence that is important. Now, I think that that's quite easy to understand.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's obvious to most of us. Most of the time, it's obvious what happens first and what happens second, especially in OET. You know, you having received multiple nurse visits, Mr. Smith's ulcer has healed. Okay, or
Paul,
healed properly. Yes, go on, Ismail.
second clause can be past perfect as well.
Past perfect. Okay, so yeah, I guess it could. Yeah. So let's try it. So having recovered. I don't know actually. Having recovered well, Mr. Smith had. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do past perfect. No, I was thinking about that before, but I was thinking it was possible, but I don't think it is. Had having recovered well, had been discharged. Having recovered well, Mr. Smith had been discharged. I suppose it's possible if we've got something in a previous sentence which establishes the past. I saw Mr. Smith. Oh, sorry. I saw Mr. Smith on the 4th of July last year. Having recovered well, he had been discharged. Yeah, because what this is, it's not before the recovering well, it's before the 4th of July. So it is possible to do it, but you're probably not going to be doing that in OET.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so this past perfect is about the 4th of July. It's before the 4th of July. That's all. So I'm not going to include it because it's just a bit confusing. So,
excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, so it means that sir, it could be two events, like no more than two events, like just having received multiple nurses visits, one event, and then Mr. Smith on here has healed properly.
No,
so
it can
it
be.
Could be more than two events.
Yeah, of course, it can be multiple events. So Mr. Smith also has healed properly, and he is ready to rejoin the, I don't know, the physio group. Yeah, you can put loads of things. Here I've done present perfect, and then I've put present simple. Multiple tenses, multiple actions. The important thing is that I told you what happened first. And what happened first in this example?
Having received multiple nurse visits.
Yeah, multiple nurse visits happened first. Then I'm telling you, these are things that happened after. Now, in my brain, I'm creating a story. I'm saying that the reason his heel is also healed properly, and the reason he's ready to rejoin the physio group is because of the multiple nurse visits. That's what happens in my brain, but that's not really what I'm doing here. I'm just stating that this one happened first, and this happened second, or this happened next, or happened after.
Yeah, the sequential relation is also important, like the meaning. If it is something it's not related to the first clause, so no need to mention.
Yeah, exactly. There might not be a direct cause and result, but there is definitely a sequence of events. We just create a cause and result in our brain.
But the sentence should be meaningful with a relation to the first clause.
Yeah, of course, because you wouldn't write the sentence if you didn't think it was important to say this one happened first and that one happened second.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that that's quite straightforward. Now, the errors that we might make are that we don't put the perfect participle, or we get the order wrong. Okay, we put it the other way around. But those are simple mistakes to correct, and I think we'll be able to fix it. What can also happen is that we mistake this for the present participle clause. Okay. I don't really use the present participle clause very often. In fact, I probably wouldn't use it in OET writing at all, but people do use it. And so we're going to have to think about it. So let me give you an example. Oops. Feeling distressed about her, what could I put? Feeling distressed about her recent heart problems. Mrs. Johnson contacted her GP. Okay, so now can you see the difference between this one and this one? Distressed is an adjective, isn't it? I know it can be a verb as well, but in this case, it's an adjective. What other word could it be?
Anxious.
Worried?
Worried.
Okay, so feeling anxious about her recent heart problems, Mrs. Johnson contacted her GP. Now, if I said to you, why did she contact her GP? You would say,
Was feeling anxious.
Because
Because of anxious.
yeah, she's anxious because of anxiety. If you're going to say the noun, okay, so she's feeling anxious about her recent heart problems. Now, the difference is this. We've only got the present participle, which is here. It's verb plus ing. This one here, we had the having plus the past participle. And we put these all together. So let's put them in the same color. Let's make them green. Okay. And we'll make this one black. Okay. So this is a bit different. In this one, you might say that she felt anxious first and that she contacted her GP second. You might say that. Okay. And you wouldn't be wrong. But think about her on the phone now. She's contacting the GP. She's talking to the GP. How does she feel?
The most, feeling anxious.
Anxious now.
Yes.
Anxious. She's anxious now. Okay. So you can argue, you could say, having felt anxious about her recent heart problems for 2 or 3 days, she rang her GP. What you're saying there is that the anxiety came first and the call came second. If you say feeling anxious about her recent heart problems, what you're telling me is that they're true at the same time. They're true at the same time. Okay, the events or situations in both clauses are simultaneous. That's what we're saying here, that they're simultaneous, that they happen at the same time. Now, yes, you can say that she obviously felt anxious before she rang the GP. I know that she did. That's true. You can write, she felt anxious about her recent heart problems, and as a result, she rang the GP. There are loads of ways of expressing that, but that's not what we're expressing here. What we're expressing here is that they're both true at the same time. Okay. How about this one? Let's do another example. Let's do a non-medical one. Owning 6 cars. Oops. Owning 6 cars, Paul is unhappy about the increase in road tax. Okay. Paul is unhappy about the increase in road tax. Now we know why, don't we?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I've got 6 cars. So I'm going to be hit with tax for all of them. Oh no. Okay. So you could say because he owns 6 cars, Paul is unhappy. But that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is this is the situation. This is the situation. Now in this one, it's all in the present, isn't it? How do I know it's all in the present?
Or is
Is.
yes.
Okay. How do I know that the first one was in the past?
Going.
Because it happened before the present,
Because
but they are true at the
Contacted.
same time.
How do I know that this one is in the past?
Contacted. Contacted.
Yeah. That's the only verb, isn't it?
Mhm.
We don't have a verb in the first clause. Okay. We've only got the participle, this present participle. The verb in the second clause dictates the tense. Dictates the tense. Now, I don't like that. Okay, I don't like the present participle. But there are some times that it can be useful in OET. I just always find a different solution for it. I don't like the present participle. It feels confusing. It feels unnatural to me. And also, this one, which is really good for OET, the perfect participle, we make mistakes with this because we're thinking about this. So my advice to you guys is avoid it. Don't use it. We'll do some practice today on it, but we'll see that it's not really that good. And I think that there are other better ways of doing it. Okay. But I suppose this is an okay one. If you think about some of the psychological ones, the psychiatry ones that we've got, like Catherine Walter and Marjorie Jackson in the medicine tasks, this could possibly be a useful sentence. But you know, there's no list of things which says participle clause tick. The examiners aren't going to say, wow, that's a present participle clause. They've done a really good job. They're much more likely to say that this is good because this is showing sequence, and sequence is important. Being able to say when things happened and in which order they happened, and to be able to play with that with different grammar, that's more impressive. So I think it's easier to use the perfect participle, but I think it's also more impressive in terms of how it sounds and the role it plays in your OET writing. So this one, again, forget tense. It's not about this one is feeling, so it must be in the present. The tense is dictated by the second clause, the following clause. Right. Any questions at this point before we go and do some exercises?
I have a question.
Go on, Ismail.
Sometimes I see sentences without having, but with participle just recovered well postoperatively. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There are other times where it looks like a participle clause. It's probably going to be a reduced participle clause. You're not going to use those in OET writing.
All right.
I said at the beginning that this has got the potential to be an enormous topic, but I'm just keeping it very narrow and keeping it on the lines of what will we do in OET writing?
All right, thanks.
Mary, have you got a question?
Yes, Paul, thank you. For example, if this sentence, like, despite being taken medication, she didn't feel better. Is it correct?
Despite, well, you can't say despite being taken. You can say despite taking, because she took it, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Despite taking medication, she didn't show any improvement. Is that what you said?
Yeah, she didn't feel better.
She didn't feel better. Well, this is not really about participle clauses because this is about contrast, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's the same idea, though, that it's the second clause, isn't it, that dictates the tense.
Yeah.
And also, we've got a concept of the sequence, because we know that she took the medication first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you did it the other way around, despite not feeling better, she took medication. Now it doesn't make any sense, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's not a contrast anymore. When you don't feel better, you do take medication.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't make any sense. But in any case, this is not a participle clause. It's using despite and a noun clause.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mubarak, have you got a question?
Yes, a short question. Regarding present participle, you mentioned in the beginning object, something I didn't understand. Can you give us an example, sir, please?
Object. I don't think I said object, did I?
No, there was 3 in upper of the page. Upper part of the page use,
Oh, here.
Yeah, dynamic objective.
Adjective.
Sorry.
Yeah. So basically, bored is what you'd call a passive adjective. I would call it that because it happens to you. I am bored. Boring, I call dynamic because it means I'm doing it. I do it, or that does it. So there are other words that you can't do that with. So for instance, delicious, you can't say it's delicious or it's deliciousing. It's just delicious. But bored and boring, scared and scary. So if you think of scared and scary, are you scared or are you scary if you watch a horror movie?
Scared.
Yeah.
You're scared, aren't you? So what is scary if you watch a horror movie?
The film.
The film is scary. So that's what I mean. Sometimes these dynamic adjectives are with an ing. Boring. What else could there be? Any others? Have you got any others? Frightening.
Blurred and blurry.
Exciting.
Blurred and blurry. No, they're both really similar. They're really similar. Exciting and excited. So
disappointing, disappointed.
Disappointing. Just imagine you come in with some ice creams. Are your children exciting or is the ice cream exciting?
Children.
No.
Ice cream is exciting.
Children are excited.
Yeah, excited, yeah.
Yeah, and ice cream can't be excited.
Yeah.
You don't look at the ice cream and say, wow, you're enjoying this. No, the ice cream is exciting.
Exciting.
Making the excitement.
Attracting.
Attractive and attracted. Attracted and attractive are similar. Okay. So that's what we use these present participles for.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. Stephen, have you got a question?
Yeah, please.
Go on, Stephen. Sometimes the sound's not very good, Stephen. I don't always hear, but go and give me a question.
Yes. Is it okay now?
Yes, sounds great.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was a bit late, but I want to clarify things. Is it that there should always be a cause in the second in the first clause to
well, yeah. So it's not about that. I know that often it is that. So for instance, if I said to you 2 sentences, if I said to you, I got wet, it was raining. Okay. Have I put a cause in that? I got wet, it was raining. I haven't put a cause, but you think there's a cause, don't you? You think there's a relationship between those 2 things.
Yes.
I got wet because it's raining. It's the same here. I'm not actually putting a cause, but you make a connection between those 2 things. What I'm actually
Okay.
telling you is in this one, I'm telling you one happened before the other one.
Okay.
And this one, I'm telling you that one happens at the same time as the other one.
Okay.
Now, if you want to look at that situation and use your intelligence and say, I can see that there's a cause and a result here, that's good. That's great.
Okay.
But that's not why we write this sentence.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right? Okay. So I think we should probably do a bit of, let's do an exercise. Okay.
Okay.
Let's do one together. So yeah, we'll take this away. Take this away. Let's have a look at this one. And we'll do it together. We'll do this one together. So, Mr. Edwards, this is a timeline paragraph, guys. Okay, timeline paragraph. Intermittent constipation, diarrhea, last 2 months. When you see last 2 months, what tense do you immediately think?
Past.
Past
simple.
Perfect.
simple.
Perfect tense.
Last 2 months.
I think that
Past month comes with the perfect having.
Present perfect is what you're
Yeah.
thinking of, guys. That's what you should be thinking of.
Last
The
2
last 2 months is always from
From
now
perfect.
going back 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I said to you, I've been feeling sick over the past 2 months.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. That would be present perfect. Now I'm thinking present perfect. Now, if it was previous 2 months, then you'd be thinking past perfect.
Yeah.
And we can do we'll do 2 examples, okay? So first one, intermittent constipation and diarrhea. In your mind, why do you think you did the test for anemia?
Deficit.
Yeah.
Any reason why?
To know about the hemoglobin
Yeah.
level.
Bleeding.
Result of some
Diarrhea.
Because of this.
Yes.
Because of this. Okay, now there's a really simple way for us to do it. I can say Mr. Smith has been experiencing intermittent constipation and diarrhea. How long for?
For the last 2 months.
For the last 2 months. And as a result, I have arranged an anemia test. Okay, that's an easy way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what is the license to connect the 2 ideas? What have I used? And as a result. Yeah. Comma in there. So that's the license. That's my sentence tool. That's what I've used to add the 2 ideas together. That's one way I could do it, by showing results and causes.
Yeah.
Okay. Or I could use a participle clause.
Yeah. Having.
Okay, so did one happen before the other?
Yeah.
Yeah, the constipations. Yeah.
That's the last 2 months, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that is the past, and the anemia is today, maybe. The anemia test is today.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be having experienced intermittent constipation
for the last 2.
Constipation and diarrhea. Oops, diarrhea.
One of them, I think. Not in the.
For the last 2 months, Mr. Smith has undergone an anemia test.
Or requires, yeah.
Or Mr. Smith requires, yeah, we could put requires, so it doesn't have to be present perfect here, it could be
Or
requires.
suggested.
Well, Mr. Smith wouldn't suggest, would he? He wouldn't say, I think I need an anemia test. You say that. So look at what we do. Well, let's just use it as we've got now. Having experienced intermittent constipation and diarrhea for the last 2 months, Mr. Smith requires an anemia test. This case, we've done present perfect in the first one. And then we've chosen in another one, we've chosen present simple. Okay, that's fine. Or we could say, we could use present perfect again. We could do the same thing. An anemia test has been arranged. It's up to you. You say what you want. You know, you're the one who makes the decisions about it. So this is present perfect with result. This is present with the perfect participle clause. This is the present perfect with the perfect participle clause. Now, it doesn't matter what this tense is. It just does not matter. In this case, it was present perfect. In this case, it was present simple. But what did we begin the sentence with? We began it with
participle plus.
participle. And what it tells us in each of these sentences here, it tells us that the intermittent constipation and diarrhea happened before the action in the following clause. Now, previous 2 months. Previous 2 months. This is an interesting one. Just imagine now, this one here is like a today paragraph, isn't it?
Right.
It's like a today current condition paragraph. But what if it was not? What if I wanted to say there were multiple events? First time he presented with intermittent constipation and diarrhea.
Background.
And then the anemia
Timeline.
test was arranged on that time. Okay. Well, now I'd take the same one for the previous 2 months. An anemia test was
arranged.
Oh, was
arranged, yeah. So this happened in the past. Okay, this happened in the past. This happened before it. The only thing that's really changed here is this phrase previous 2 months instead. So here we've chosen to use the past with a perfect participle clause.
But teacher, we don't have a subject. For example, constipation and diarrhea. It's look like has
Okay,
anemia.
so yeah,
One
so
of them, I think. Yeah,
if we want to put the
Yes.
person, now I was thinking, think about the timeline paragraph. We've probably already written his name, haven't we? So you probably said Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith presented
On date.
earlier today. Okay. In this one, it would be Mr. Smith presented on the 9th of May, 2023. So this is in the past, isn't it? We've already established what the name is, so you don't actually have to put it. This sentence is all about what happened with the anemia test. Okay.
Oh,
So,
should we put a comma after the date and continue that as one sentence, or should it be two sentences?
no, two sentences. Now, what you could put, okay, what you could put is like this: on. Now you've started with a time phrase, haven't you? Here, this is a full verb clause. On the 9th of May, 2023, having experienced, that would work. Okay, that works because this is just a time phrase at the beginning, a timestamp, like yesterday. But if you've got the Mr. Smith presented, that's a full verb clause and you can't just put a comma. Remember, you need to have a license to do that and add a new clause. So there are loads of different ways of doing it. But ultimately, look at all of these examples. Okay, let's get all of these examples. Okay, there's one thing in common with all of them. They've all got perfect participle clauses. All right, and we've started the sentence with them. You don't have to, they can come as the second part of a sentence, but we've started the sentence with them. Now, what they don't have in common is tense in the second clause. They don't all have the same tense. Okay. These two have got the past. This one's got the present perfect here, and this one's got the present simple. But what this tells me is, in this section here, what it tells me is that this thing happened first. That's the whole point of perfect participle clauses. That's the whole point of it. This bit happened before the bit in the second clause. Yelena, one last question.
Thank you, Paul. If we have results already in our notes, can we just add after an anemia test was arranged and it showed blah blah?
Say it again.
If we have already results in our case notes
Mhm.
for the anemia test,
Mhm.
can we just add at the end of this sentence, the last one, you said an anemia test was arranged and it showed?
Well, you know what I would do?
Mhm.
I'd use a relative clause,
Yeah,
which was positive.
okay.
Yeah, I would. That's what I would do. Now, if we think about it, we've added another clause. Now it's a relative clause.
Okay.
So we basically, if you think about it, a relative clause on its own is an easy thing for us to understand. A participle clause on its own, we can look at it, we can put it into a table. It's an easy thing to understand. When we look at present perfect on its own, it's easy to understand. When we look at the past simple, it's easy to understand. What we're being asked to do in life in general, in an English-speaking environment, is to take all of these things, put them together. In OET, you can do this. There's nothing in here that you don't understand. You know that he had the constipation and diarrhea first. You know an anemia test would be arranged for that after. And you know that the result is here and you can add it with a relative clause. So what we'll do is we'll come back tomorrow. We'll review participle clauses, some exercises in the morning, and then we'll do a review and we'll look at the same ideas. We'll get a few ideas together and we'll say, what linkers can I use? How many different ways can I do it? Can I do it with results and causes? Can I do it with relative clauses? Can I do it with participle clauses? Do I need to use contrast? Should I use two sentences? We're going to be a bit freer tomorrow and see what we can do. Okay. We're going to finish there because the reading class, the writing class is going to begin now. We'll come back tomorrow and review this. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
Have a
very
great
much.
day.
Thank
See you at 11.
you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.